Good afternoon. Today we are talking about relationships. And in 1 John chapter 4, verses 11 and 12, it says, "Dear friends, if God loved us in this way, we also must love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God remains in us and his love is perfected in us." See, God's love is a love that leads to practical action. See, too often Christians today are not known for their love. They are known for cultivating these relationships where they're seen as hyper-political, out of touch, pushy, or arrogant. And the great challenge for us today as true followers of Christ is going where people don't want us and subverting those expectations that the world has for us. And how do we do that? How do we subvert those expectations of a world that has everything against us? See, in John chapter 13, after Jesus washes the feet of the disciples, he gives them an example. In verses 12 through 14, he says, "When Jesus had washed their feet and put on his robe, he reclined again and said to them, 'Do you know what I have done for you? You call me teacher and Lord. That is well said, for I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet.'" See, what other example, what other response might we expect Jesus to have? "I have washed your feet to show you that I love you. Now, how do you show your love for me?" And he says it right there, "Because I have washed yours, now go wash each other's." Because I have loved you in this way, because everything I have done for you, now you show that you love me by going and doing that for your fellow man. That is where we cultivate these healthy relationships. And healthy relationships in this world today are really the key to fruitful living. They're the key to successful living, but it all starts with Christ. If we don't have that proper, healthy relationship with Jesus Christ, there's really truly no way to properly love one another. See, the proper way to love God in response to his love for us is to go out and love one another. Because if God loved us in this way, if God loved us enough to send his son as the sacrifice for our sins, how might we respond to that? How might we sacrifice ourselves to love someone? See, God sent his sacrifice while we were still opposed to him. And it says in Romans 5:8, "But God proves his love for us that in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." How do we sacrifice ourselves to love someone? This doesn't always apply to, I would die for that person. I would give my life to show that I love you. I think the most important part of that statement is in that I would give my life to show the love of Christ is that we live for someone. We live our day-to-day lives with the love of Christ just radiating through us. And through that, when love truly exists in our life, those relationships will begin to flourish. And how do we imitate that in our own lives? See, love is the greatest evidence of God's presence on this earth. See, more than power or popularity or passion, because but during Jesus' life here on earth, he appeared weak at times in his wilderness temptation. Jesus was unpopular at times. You look at the last 2 years of his ministry with the political and religious elite, always looking for a way to trip him up, always looking for a way that they might bring him down. Jesus appeared vulnerable at times. His cousin Lazarus died, and it says Jesus wept. And in response to that, the people around him said, "See, look at how he loved." Through all of these instances of Jesus' human experience and human limitations on this earth, through everything that he went through, he always loved people. Even if there is nothing else and every limitation in the world that you have, you can always love people. You can pray for people. You can appeal to God for the lost souls all over this earth. That is how you show the love of God, by attempting by any way, shape, or form to bring people closer to him. That is how we see God. If you don't love people enough to attempt to bring them closer to God, if you don't love God enough to bring the people closer to him, it may be time to reevaluate your life. But I pray that our love is proof of God's love perfected in us.